Lyra stood in front of the tall mirror, her hands still, her face calm, but her heart was heavy. The silver robe she wore shimmered like moonlight, designed to show peace and honor. But to her, it felt like a cage. She was the daughter of a high-ranking family in the Azarene Empire, known for its long traditions and powerful alliances. Since childhood, she had been trained to smile, to nod, to obey. Her future had always been decided by others, and now, at only 23 star cycles, she was being given away in marriage, not for love, not for happiness, but for peace. This match will stop the conflict in the Zora sectors, the council had said. You are lucky to be chosen, Lyra. But she didn't feel lucky. She didn't even know the man she was supposed to marry, a powerful warlord from the border planets. He had never spoken to her, never asked her anything, yet today he would claim her in front of thousands. As the music began outside the temple walls, her servant adjusted the jewel on her forehead. Are you ready, my lady? The servant asked gently. Lyra nodded. What else could she do? Outside, the grand platform floated above the crowd. People from dozens of planets had come to watch. Cameras hovered in the air. The whole galaxy would see this union. But something unexpected was happening behind the scenes. In the control center, two officials whispered to each other with worried eyes. A mistake had happened during the ritual preparations. Due to a name confusion in the galactic database, the groom arriving for the ceremony was not the feared warlord, but a human. His name was Kai. He wasn't royalty. He wasn't a commander. He was a peacekeeper from Earth, sent to observe political events, not become part of one. Somehow the ancient match ritual system had chosen him by accident. Should we cancel it? One official asked. No time, said the other. The ceremony has started. If we stop now, it will be seen as an insult to the gods and a threat to peace. They looked at the screen showing Kai being guided up the stairs by golden-armored guards. The young human looked calm but clearly confused. Lyra stepped forward onto the glowing platform. Her eyes scanned the crowd, but she paused when she saw the man approaching from the other side. He was not tall like most of the Azarene. His skin was not silver blue. He wore no royal armor. He walked like someone used to open spaces and danger, not halls of power. He was human. Lyra's heart skipped. Was this another test? Kai stood before her and gave a small, respectful bow. I don't really know what's happening, he said softly, but I'll follow your lead. She blinked. This was not what she expected. Her true groom, the warlord, would have claimed her with force. This man was unsure, gentle even. The elder began the ritual chant, unaware of the mistake. Lyra was still frozen in place. She looked into Kai's eyes. They weren't cold. They weren't filled with power or pride. They looked honest. The chant ended. You may seal the bond, the elder said. Everyone waited. Lyra hesitated. Then, slowly, she lifted her hand. Kai took it with care as if touching something fragile. The crowd cheered. It was done. A new union was formed. Later, in the quiet chambers given to them, Lyra sat by the window while Kai stood near the door, unsure what to do. I didn't expect this, Kai said, rubbing the back of his neck. I was supposed to, just observe the event. Then soldiers took me, dressed me, and brought me up those stairs. Lyra didn't speak at first. She was trying to understand too. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a shift in destiny. I was supposed to marry a warlord, she said finally. A man known for controlling planets. Kai raised his eyebrows. Sounds fun. She let out a small laugh for the first time. You're not what I expected. I get that a lot, Kai replied with a small smile. Then he added more seriously, if you want me to leave, I'll talk to whoever's in charge. You didn't choose this. Lyra looked at him. No one had ever said that to her before. I didn't choose, she whispered. But neither did you. They were both caught in a web not of their making. But something strange had happened. For the first time in her life, someone had offered her a choice. A man from a distant world, someone who had no power here, treated her like a person, not a pawn. Lyra looked out at the stars. Everything was changing, and she didn't know where this would go. But for now, she didn't feel so alone. The night sky above the palace shimmered with stars, but inside the ceremonial quarters, silence filled the space. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her wedding robe. Her fingers played with the edge of the fabric, mind lost in thought. Across the room, Kai stood near the door, not knowing what to say or do. He felt like a stranger in someone else's dream. "I still don't know how this happened," he said quietly. Lyra looked up. "Neither do I. But the match ritual is considered sacred. Once completed, it's not easily undone." Kai took a deep breath and nodded. "You were supposed to marry someone else, a powerful man." "Yes," she answered. "But you appeared instead." They both sat in silence for a few more minutes. Outside, the guards walked their patrol. Inside, two people from different worlds were trying to understand the moment that had just changed both their lives. Kai finally spoke again. "If I caused trouble, I'll leave. I don't want to be part of something that makes you suffer." Lyra looked at him closely. "You didn't cause this. The system chose you by accident. But now that the ritual is complete, it's recorded in the Central Bond Archive." "What does that mean?" Kai asked. "It means we're officially married by Azarine law," she replied softly. Kai blinked. "That fast?" Lyra nodded. That final gesture, the hand joining, sealed it, in front of witnesses no less. Kai rubbed his face. "Wow, galactic marriage speed." That made Lyra smile just a little. "You seem calm," she said, studying him. "Most would panic, especially someone from your world." Kai shrugged. "I've been through war zones. This is different. Confusing, sure, but not terrifying." He walked slowly toward the window and looked out at the stars. "I came here as a peace observer. Earth is still new to galactic politics. I was just supposed to watch and report. I never thought I'd end up in royal robes." Lyra stood and joined him by the window. "Do you regret it?" Kai looked at her thoughtful. "I don't even know what it is yet." In the main council chamber, news of the mistake was spreading quickly. The High Advisor was furious. "A human? This was supposed to be a union between our houses. The Zora sectors will take this as an insult." Another council member added, "We should annul the bond immediately." But the High Priest, a tall figure with gold-lined robes, raised a hand. The ceremony followed the ancient steps. The ritual was completed. Annulment will cause public unrest. The crowd saw it. Billions have watched the broadcast. We cannot act in haste. The council went silent. They all knew the truth. If they undid the bond now, it would create scandal, and perhaps war. Still, many wanted the mistake erased. Secret plans began forming to fix the problem behind the scenes. Back in the ceremonial quarters, a soft knock sounded. A palace officer entered and bowed. "My lady, honored guest, the council has requested your presence tomorrow morning. They will speak of the union." Lyra nodded without emotion. "We'll be there." The officer left quickly. Kai turned to her. "So, what now?" Lyra looked serious. "They will try to separate us." He frowned. "Even though the ritual was completed?" "Yes, but they won't do it in public. They'll try quietly, with pressure or threats." Kai crossed his arms. "Let them try. I don't scare that easily." She looked at him again. "Why are you like this?" "Like what?" "Kind, calm. You're not like the other men I've seen at court." Kai thought for a moment, then said, "Maybe because I don't see you as a tool or prize. I see you as a person." Lyra was quiet. Then she looked down and whispered, "No one has said that to me before." The next morning, the council chamber was full. Lyra and Kai entered side by side, both dressed in formal clothes. The air was tense. Many eyes watched them with judgment. The High Advisor began. "Lady Lyra, we thank you for your appearance. There was an error during the ceremony. This man is not of royal blood. The match cannot continue." Lyra stood straight. "The match was completed according to the law." "But he is human," another voice said with disgust. "He does not belong here." Kai didn't speak at first, but when he looked at Lyra's face, calm but struggling, he stepped forward. "I may not be from here," Kai said clearly, "but I didn't force anything. I followed what your guards told me, and when I stood before her, I treated her with respect." He paused. "If that's not enough to be her husband, then maybe the problem isn't me." The room grew quiet. Lyra added, "I will not accept another match. If this bond is broken, I will refuse any future union." Gasps filled the room. The council was shaken. No noble woman had ever rejected the system this directly. The high priest leaned forward. "Are you saying you accept this human as your rightful partner?" Lyra didn't hesitate. "Yes, not because I was forced, because he treated me like I mattered." That simple sentence carried great power. Later that day, as they walked alone in the gardens, Kai looked at her. "You didn't have to say that. You could have walked away." Lyra stopped walking. "I could have, but for the first time someone gave me the chance to speak, and I did." He smiled. "So, what now?" "We wait," she said. "The council will talk, argue, and plan. But now, the people have seen us. The galaxy is watching." Kai looked up at the twin suns above them. "Well, I hope they like a good story." Lyra laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. She didn't know what the future would hold. But today, she was no longer alone. The grand palace looked peaceful from the outside, but inside the walls, anger was growing like a quiet storm. The Azarine Council was not pleased. The match between Lyra and Kai had become the center of attention across many star systems. News of the human Groom had already reached other empires, and messages flooded the palace from allies, enemies, and curious observers. "This mistake must be corrected," said the High Advisor, his voice firm. "The human must leave. Now. We cannot remove him without consequences," the High Priest warned. "The ritual was seen by billions. Breaking the bond now may cause more harm." The Elder of Laws, an old woman with sharp eyes, added, "Unless the human chooses to walk away himself, then the council will not be blamed." The others agreed. If Kai left by choice, the union could be quietly erased, and the original match with the warlord could continue. Later that night, Lyra walked through the quiet halls of the guest wing, her thoughts spinning. She had just left a private meeting with the council. They had offered her gifts, land, and even a higher title if she convinced the human to step away. She didn't reply to their offer. She only listened. Now, as she reached the garden, she found Kai sitting by the glowing water, tossing small stones into the pond. He turned when he heard her footsteps. "Let me guess," he said with a tired smile. "They want me gone." She sat beside him. "They want you to leave quietly. They think I will agree." Kai nodded slowly. "And do you?" Lyra looked at the water. "I don't know what I expected from this union, but I didn't expect someone to ask me what I want." Kai was silent, waiting. "I don't want to lose that," she whispered. He smiled softly. "Then we're on the same page." The next day, things became more serious. A new message arrived, from the original Groom. He was not pleased. The warlord, known as Lord Varric, sent a direct message to the council, demanding the marriage be honored. His tone was cold and dangerous. "This insult will not be forgotten," he said. "I will not be denied what was promised." The council felt the pressure. They had to act fast. That evening, guards came to escort Kai. "The council asks for a private word," they said. Lyra stepped forward. "I will come with him." The guards hesitated but allowed her. Inside the chamber, the council faced them. The High Advisor spoke with fake calm. "Human, you were chosen by mistake. This marriage was never meant to be. Walk away, and you will. Return to Earth with honor and reward." Kai stood firm. "And what happens to Lyra if I do?" "She will be returned to her original path," the advisor replied. Lyra's face was calm, but her voice was strong. "That path leads to pain." The high priest looked at her. "Do you deny the will of the council?" "I do not deny your will," she said. "But I will not be used as a tool again." She turned to Kai. "If you stay, you may face danger. They will not stop trying to remove you." Kai looked around the room and then back at her. "Then let them try." That night, whispers filled the palace. Some nobles were impressed by the humans' bravery. Others were furious. A few young warriors even offered to protect Kai, seeing his actions as honorable. In a quiet corner of the palace, two old servants watched the events unfold. "Strange times," said the older one. "Yes," the other nodded. "But maybe it's time for something new." The next morning, a surprise shook the palace. A group of neutral watchers, officials from other worlds, arrived to observe the situation. They had received news from Earth's ambassador and wanted to ensure the human safety. Now, the council was truly cornered. If they acted too strongly, the galactic community would see it. Their power was no longer hidden behind closed doors. In the training yard, Kai stood with a group of Azarine guards, practicing with a long staff. He wasn't the strongest, but his moves were clean and controlled. Lyra watched from the side, impressed. When he saw her, he smiled. "Still think I'm weak?" She smiled back. "You're not weak. You're stubborn." "Same thing," he joked. They sat under the shade of a tree, catching their breath. Lyra looked at him and said, "They will keep pushing, but the people are watching now. You've become more than a mistake." Kai looked serious. "And you?" She paused. "I've always been silent, but now, I think it's time I spoke." In the final scene of this part, Lyra stood before a small group of nobles and spoke clearly. "I was born into duty. I followed orders. I smiled when told to. But this union, though unexpected, showed me something important. A true bond cannot be forced. It must be chosen." Some in the group nodded. Others frowned, but Lyra knew there was no turning back now. She had taken her first step toward change. Dark clouds hung over the twin moons that evening, as if the skies knew what was coming. Inside her private study, Lyra sat quietly, reading reports sent from a hidden source. The truth was right in front of her now, written in official records, hidden for years. Lord Varric, the original groom she was meant to marry, had a long and silent history of cruelty. The galaxy never knew because those who suffered were silenced. Previous brides had vanished without a trace, their names removed from records, but now evidence was found, enough to show the truth. Kai entered the room slowly, noticing her serious expression. "You look like you haven't blinked in an hour." She turned the screen toward him. "Look at this." He read through the reports, old security footage, private letters, a complaint from one of Varric's former servants. "This is bad," he said quietly. "If the council knew this—" "They did," Lyra replied, her voice bitter. "But they buried it." Kai frowned. "Then we bring it back into the light." The next day, Lyra and Kai met with 3 members of the Palace Law Council. They showed the proof, explained how it was gathered, and demanded an investigation. "This cannot be ignored anymore," Lyra said firmly. One elder looked uneasy. "If what you say is true, then Varric has broken ancient laws." Another spoke with caution. "But exposing him now may start a war." Kai stepped forward. "If you protect him just because you fear trouble, then you are already at war, with justice." The room fell silent. The Law Council agreed to a private tribunal. It would not be public yet, but the investigation would begin. Outside the legal hall's people were starting to talk. Some palace servants whispered that the human groom had found something dangerous. Others said Lady Lyra was finally acting not like a royal doll, but like a real leader. In the training grounds, younger warriors spoke with respect about Kai's honesty and calm nature. "Not many humans could stand against our council," one said. "He stood because he cares for her," said another. At night, Lyra walked with Kai in the quiet gardens. Lanterns floated in the air, glowing like small stars. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked. Kai nodded. "Truth is always the right thing, even if it hurts." She looked at him, her expression soft. "You never asked me for anything, not even loyalty." "I didn't come here for power," Kai said. "I just didn't want you to be trapped with someone who didn't care." She smiled a little. "And now you're standing between me and a warlord." He chuckled. "Guess I have strange hobbies." The next morning, the council chamber was filled again. This time, the tribunal was called. The High Advisor stood with a strict face. "Evidence has been presented against Lord Varric. This meeting will decide if the bond between him and Lady Lyra was based on lies and unlawful acts." Varric himself appeared on a screen, his voice calm but proud. "All these claims are false. The human is twisting facts to protect his stolen match." But then one of the former servants, a woman who had disappeared years ago, was brought in secretly and allowed to speak. Her voice shook, but she told the truth. The room was shocked. Lyra stood beside her. "I will not be silent anymore. Go." Tribunal ended with a temporary judgment. Lord Varric would be removed from the match registry, and his past unions would be reinvestigated. Until final decisions were made, he could not demand any bond. It was a small victory, but a powerful. Kai looked at Lyra after the announcement. "You did it." She shook her head. "We did it." News of the tribunal spread quickly. Across nearby planets, people heard the story of the human groom who uncovered dark secrets, and the alien bride who finally stood up to her fate. In marketplaces, children pretended to be Lady Lyra the Brave and Kai the Honest. In private rooms, noble daughters asked their mothers, "Can I choose my own match too?" The empire was changing, slowly, but truly. That evening, Lyra sat in her room, alone for a moment, and looked at her reflection. She saw a different version of herself, not a silent bride, not a royal decoration, but a woman who had finally spoken. Kai entered quietly, holding 2 cups of warm starfruit tea. "Thought you might need this." She took the cup and smiled. "Thank you for staying." He sat beside her. "I said I would." They drank quietly, the air peaceful. For once, there was no pressure, no counsel, no fear, just 2 people, side by side, sharing a quiet night under the stars. The sun rose over the Azarine Palace, lighting the rooftops in soft golden light. A quiet calm spread through the halls, but everyone inside knew that the real storm had not yet passed. The council had delayed their final decision. They were still discussing Lord Varric's punishment and the future of the marriage ritual system. But the people were no longer silent. Across the empire, voices had risen in support of Lady Lyra and the human who had stood beside her. In the courtyard, Lyra walked slowly, her thoughts deep. She knew that more challenges were coming. The system didn't change in a single day, but what mattered most was that she had changed, and she wasn't alone. Kai stood by the stone fountain, watching birds glide through the morning air. When he saw her, his face lit up with a small, honest smile. "You look peaceful today," he said. Lyra returned the smile. "For the first time in years, I feel like myself." They walked together under the tall arches, the same halls where Lyra had once walked like a shadow, quiet and controlled. Now she walked with purpose. Later that day, a special announcement was made. The council had called for a public ceremony, not to undo the bond, but to ask if the union would continue. It was something never done before. Instead of forcing the bride and groom, they would let them answer freely. Their response would become part of a new law, a change that allowed marriage by choice, not command. The entire empire watched. Billions of screens across space lit up with the image of the palace platform, the same place where the accidental bond began. Now it would be tested. Lyra stood on the left side of the platform wearing a simple dress of sky blue silk. She looked calm, but strong. Her eyes searched the crowd, not for approval, but for one face. Kai stepped forward from the other side. He wore no armor or royal robe, just the same peaceful look he had worn the first time they met. A silence fell. The high priest raised a hand. Lady Lyra of House Zealand, you may speak first. Do you accept the bond formed between you and the human, Kai of Earth? Not by force, but by your will? Lyra looked at Kai. Her voice was steady. I was chosen by law, but I choose by heart. I accept him, not because I must, but because he stood with me when no one else did. The crowd gasped quietly. Some wept. Some smiled. The high priest turned to Kai. Kai of Earth, do you accept this bond not as a duty, but as a vow of trust, respect, and peace? Kai smiled. I never planned to be part of this, but I won't walk away from her. I choose her, now and always. The crowd exploded into cheers. Inside the council chambers, not a single voice spoke against it. Even the high advisor, once so cold, remained quiet. He could feel the tide turning. This was history. Outside, people celebrated. Children danced in the street. Artists painted their figures in the sky with drones and light. And the bond that had started as a mistake had become a message of hope. Later that evening, after the ceremony ended and the crowds had faded, Lyra and Kai walked together through the quiet halls. No guards, no court, just peace. She looked at him with soft eyes. You could have gone home. Why did you stay? He stopped walking and looked into her eyes. Because you were never just a part of a mission. You're the reason I believed something better was possible. Lyra smiled. She had never been anyone's reason before. You've changed things, she said. We change things, he replied. In the final scene, Lyra stood once more before the mirror where her journey began. But this time she didn't feel like a trapped bride. She felt free. She was not chosen by power or law, but by someone who saw her worth. Behind her, Kai appeared in the reflection. He smiled. She turned and took his hand. Together, they stepped outside into a new future, not perfect but full of choice, courage, and quiet love.